immense pleasure that we have with us today Mr. Anisul Haq, MP, Honorable Minister for Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, as the chief guest for the closing session. I will be calling each one of you to the stage, and then we will start the session. Though it's in no order of precedence or protocol, Minister, may I ask you to join us? Richard Butterworth, would you like to join us? Mukhlisur Rahman Shab from Additional IG Police, Promita Sen-Gupta, who will be chairing the session, Professor Islam from the Dhaka University, and Professor John Braithwaite, who is already here. I'm going to start by requesting Promita Sen-Gupta, as chair of the session, to give some opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Honorable Minister, Minister of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, it is indeed an honor to have you here amongst us. It is equally an honor to have the Additional Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mukhlisur Rahman, here with us. It is a very exciting moment, and it's like a moment in the river that you're stepping into, a river that you have stepped into much earlier than most of the participants in this room, but there has been significant stirring and movement in the river in the last 2 days, and I am very happy that we are all here in your presence to be able to share with you what has come out of a conversation that you started with the different stakeholders in this room at different points, but also with the concerted community from the donor spectrum in this country to look at what needs to be done, what can be done, what works, and what journeys can we invest in together for the future to make justice delivery in Bangladesh efficient, to make justice something that people believe in Bangladesh and that people have faith in Bangladesh. I would, for the purposes of our friends and this huge group of stakeholders in the room, maybe like to bracket a few things that have not been discussed in this room, but these are the reasons why we are able to sit together and have these very energetic discussions and very optimistic directions for the future. Some of these discussions started with the Honorable Minister for Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs in May of this year. In fact, they started in 2014, looking at what would be viable strategies that Bangladesh could invest in to bring justice delivery closer to people, to make justice delivery more effective, and to make it a national priority, in fact. And as many of you are aware, in the upcoming 7th five-year plan, this has been made more pronounced, and this has been made more acute as a priority. My other colleagues will be talking in greater detail about this. What has been very interesting in this exercise is that the Honorable Minister has initiated an interministerial discussion with the respective agencies on these topics, which is why we have had the pleasure of having the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs yesterday speaking about his commitment to the issue to reduce crime. We've even had the Honorable Speaker of the Parliament, Dr. Shirin Sharmin Chaudhary, talking about the necessity for adapting some of these lessons into the national reality and a possible national policy on restorative justice. I will not go into great details because I will then be preempting what some of our more qualified speakers will be saying later in this session. But I do want to take this opportunity to thank those who are here and those who are not here. Big thanks to the government of Bangladesh for supporting at such high level and in such great numbers the cause of justice delivery. A big thanks to the donor community, many of whom you are here and many who are also not here present today. But it is your concerted efforts that have brought us here today. And a huge thanks to this big array of government, non-government, media, committed stakeholders who have ended on such a note of optimism. Minister, you were not able to see this, but in the working sessions over the last 2 days, in my parlance, I would say the back of the room was jumping. People were so excited, and people were sharing so many recommendations and so many suggestions that it was actually, I invited you, I'm sorry, to the boring part of it. But there was real energy in the room. And I do want to say something, that in my 10 years that I have been working in Bangladesh in the justice sector, I have never seen such momentum and such synergies in thinking, from academia to police to NGOs to CBOs to individuals, all coming together saying, this is the direction that we need to move in. I would also like to really, really thank the Dhaka University for being part of this whole exercise, for having, in fact, in some ways, having been ahead of this exercise to set up this course that is dedicated to victimology and restorative justice, talking about synergies. I would like also to take a moment to thank my team at GIZ, who have worked tirelessly to produce some of the concrete examples that have been held up in front of you today, have stood next to many of the stakeholders in continued dialogue and conversation and dedication. And last of all, I would like to thank the governments of Germany and the governments of UK for believing in this cause, for investing in this cause, and helping Bangladesh move forward in striving to achieve improved justice for all its people. Thank you.
Thank you, Promita. I will now call upon Professor John Braithwaite from the Australian National University. Like I said yesterday, many of you have heard about him, many of you have studied under him, and many, many of you have read his books. He will give his concluding reflections of what he heard and what he takes away from the conference. John, over to you.
Honourable Minister, Inspector General, friends. I should start by thanking all of the people who've worked. So it's so much work to put on a conference this big, and we international visitors are so grateful at all of the kindness we've been shown. It really has been a conference with a restorative ethos in the way we have behaved with each other. Even our British delegates, I'm surprised. I'm surprised to report I was quite worried about this conference. I thought they would be harassing me with comments about what's going on with the Ashes cricket in their homeland. I've fired them up, I fear. But I suppose I'm being charitable. It may only be because they're in Bangladesh and their memory is too painful as to who it was who knocked them out of the World Cup in March this year. A glorious performance by the Bangladesh team, I must say. I was also expecting that my job now would be to report that all of the different dimensions of the conflict that there was within this room as to why restorative justice might be a good direction for Bangladesh to head in some ways, but on the other hand, it might be a bad direction. But that is not what I have to report. Anyone who has been here for these 2 full days with such, as Pramita said, such intense and energised conversation in the working groups, in the plenaries, we have seen that there have not been people who've been making a case that we should not go in this direction. So I particularly want to say to the journalists who are here that it's very important for you to have paid attention to that very big and surprising fact. We do have a consensus in this room among very different kinds of people who often have radically different points of view on the way the criminal justice system should go, that now is the time to move in a restorative direction. The Home Minister kicked off the conference by putting the problem on the table that 71% of the people in your prisons are people who have not been convicted of a criminal offence, and this is a massive challenge. Mr. Becker of GIZ pointed out that the program, the pilot that has been the subject of so much of the discussion here, has already made a major contribution to this problem by getting 7,950 people released from prison through a variety of creative strategies. Jeremy Simons, in his plenary yesterday, put up the quote, "Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors." The Bangladesh criminal justice system has had to navigate through very rough seas, as you would be critically aware of, Minister, I'm sure, on a day-to-day basis. And it is doing a very skillful job. The citizens, the criminal justice professionals, and the ordinary people of Bangladesh are doing an extremely skillful job of rebuilding the ship of Bangladeshi criminal justice at sea. And we've seen that happening before our eyes at this meeting. Dr. Patwari this morning was building on the work of Mr. Azadullah yesterday in that plenary, and I was going to put up Vidya Nagira's PowerPoint, which I also thought was one of those slides was a vivid summary of what we've concluded about the effectiveness of restorative justice in the meeting. But it's about greater speed, empirical evidence on greater speed, cost saving, crime prevention, victim satisfaction. But I won't labour any of that because people basically have been convinced by that, so it would be redundant. That said, Bangladesh is obviously an extremely complex society, and across all those pockets of complexity, restorative justice is obviously not the answer to all of the problems that you face or even to most of it. But what we have learned at this conference is that it has a contribution to make. It is part of the solution to many problems, and it applies at many different levels. Justice Lyons this morning read from the UK Restorative Justice Action Plan, the current one. It states that an aim of British policy is equal access to restorative justice at all levels of the criminal justice system. And then he went on to say something very important. He said that the criminal justice system does not start with a charge. It starts, he said, with a citizen making a complaint to the police. We might even go a bit further in the Bangladesh context and say perhaps the criminal justice system even starts with a village court deliberation, with Shalish, with the Kabri, in an Indigenous dispute resolution in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, or with restorative justice. And then the question becomes one of, how do the police become aware that that is going on? perform their role of oversight to ensure that no human rights are being abused, that this is not a matter that should be referred to the courts. And in my own presentation, I spoke about how impressed I was with the work of the restorative justice facilitators on the spot, tearing off a sheet, giving it to the offender, this is what's agreed, giving a copy to the victim, this is what's agreed for you, the victim valuing that enormously as a sense of assurance, and another copy that is available for the state. And so that's a Bangladeshi contribution to an information channel that's available for the police to know what's going on, so that if it's appropriate for police intervention to ensure the integrity, prosecutorial integrity within the justice system, well, there it is in that pink carbon copy that is, should be accessible to them. I mean, we have a further provision in the state of New South Wales, for example, where, and I'm not recommending this for you, but just it's interesting to point out the options that exist here. So there was a lot of concern that with restorative justice in Australia, that people's rights might be abused, that the restorative justice process might impose punishments which would be beyond the tariff or too easy. And so it was decided that there would be a free hotline installed with respect to the juvenile justice program, so that any young person who received one of those pink pieces of paper in the context of your system could read the contents of that pink sheet of paper to a lawyer who was available free of charge on a hotline, and the lawyer could say, well, if you went to court, you wouldn't be getting 300 hours of community service, you would only be getting a maximum of 100 hours of community service, so maybe you ought to walk away from that agreement and go to the courts, or that your rights have been abused in some way in the restorative justice process. That's an important issue. There's got to be a mechanism, because there are cases where there are abuses of rights within restorative justice. Now, one of the things that's been going on backstage during our week here is that there have been a lot of discussions about the relationship, sort of backstage discussions where, again, Justice Lyons has been a key interlocutor of your legal leaders in your policy community about case management in the legal system, how that relates to restorative justice. His perspective in those conversations is that you need, a big part of your problem is that pretty much everyone pleads not guilty. And what you've got to do is, in addition to having the restorative justice to unload a lot of cases at the bottom of the justice system, is a bit higher up the justice system, you've got to be encouraging more people to plead not guilty. And the simple British way of doing that is to have sentencing guidelines to say, here is what you would normally get in this kind of case, but if you enter a plea of guilty, you will get that much less, so that everyone is put on notice. And I make a connection between our hotline point and that point, that if you have those sentencing guidelines, then you can improve the checks and balances to which restorative justice is subject to as well. That is, when they call in the hotline, if Justice Lyons' reforms were in place, the lawyer would be informing them, well, the guidelines say that it would be like this in this particular case, and the Restorative Justice Conference has decided to cut your arm and your leg off, and that's really not within the guidelines. So the challenge before you is how to move to joined up innovations that connects these things. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is what you're doing with your pilot here is the connection between the paralegal innovation and the restorative justice innovation. The paralegals, as people who can get people out of prison who shouldn't be there by drawing their attention to their rights or to that piece of paper that they don't have but should have, that says that your sentence has already expired or something of that order, and also is a kind of a catalyst and an activist within the justice system for saying, hey, why aren't people thinking of sending this case to restorative justice rather than having them sit in prison waiting for some other process? And you know, for me, that is the most exciting part about what you're doing here. It's utterly distinctive, and I personally would like to see many other countries thinking about copying that Bangladesh innovation. There's also been a consensus in the room that the police ought to be brought into restorative justice more than they currently are. I don't think people have been advocating that the police should take over restorative justice. Well, in fact, I'm sure people have not been advocating that the police should take over restorative justice, and in a sense that was a mistake that we made in Australia, so there is something to watch out for, but rather the suggestion has been in the spirit of the conference logo, the police there holding hands with other kinds of stakeholders who are in this room, collectively coming up with a Bangladeshi design for restorative justice that integrates with paralegal work and that integrates with a justice system in which more people are seeing that it's in their interest to plead guilty when they are guilty. So the Bangladesh model, people have been saying in our conversation, should not be a one-size-fits-all model. It should be something that adds to the flexibility of your justice system rather than detracts from that flexibility, so that if in a particular place the village court is working very well, very restoratively, honouring citizens' rights, working constructively with the police, then leave the village court in place in that place. The fact that the village court is not working at all well somewhere else is not such a big issue, because that's been the spirit of the meeting that I've heard in the dialogue. We don't need the same solution to be working in every place, but we need a range of solutions to be in place, because the challenge of access to justice is a big mountain to climb in Bangladesh, so we need every means of access to justice that are actually already working in delivering justice to the citizens of Bangladesh. And one of the terrific moments in the conference to me was when one of our very youngest delegates jumped up and said, what we need is more restorative justice in schools. And you know, and that's obviously not a police issue or that's very early in any conception of the justice system. But when he said that, there was a huge round of applause from the audience. So that was a comment that resonated about all sorts of places in civil society as well as in the state where restorative justice might work. So what is to be done now? What is to be done now? Well, I'm not the one to answer that, and so now I get ready to hand the stage to more distinguished and more competent people than myself who will have views on that matter. Top down, I think we're all inspired by the sense of leadership we have from your political and legal leaders. So top down, I guess we are hoping that we'll see interministerial meetings about how different parts of the state will join hands together to make restorative justice grow and flourish and be rights respecting. Bottom up, I hope we see more of the kinds of courtyard meetings in the village which I had the privilege to witness in Rangpur. They were really inspiring events, I would have to say. And again, to see the young people engage with their vision of restorative justice and the older people in the village listening to their ideas about how restorative justice should work in their village. So God bless the villagers of the courtyard. God bless the democracy of the ordinary Bangladeshi. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Braithwaite. I think you just wrote a conference report. Thank you for that. I would now like to welcome Professor Nurul Islam from the Dhaka University to give his vote of thanks.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Chair of this closing session, Promita Sengupta, Head of Program, Rule of Law, GIZ Bangladesh. Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Anisul Haq MP, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs. Our special guest, Mr. Mukhlisur Rahman, BPM Bar, Additional Inspector General, Bangladesh Police. Guest of Honor, Mr. Richard Butterworth, Senior Governance Advisor, DFID Bangladesh. The father of the restorative justice, Professor John Braithwaite, conference participants, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Victimology and Restorative Justice Program of the Institute of Social Welfare and Research, University of Dhaka, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the closing ceremony of the International Conference on Restorative Justice from Crime Prevention to Conflict Transformation. As you know, this conference brought together national and international academics and practitioners. Its aim was to use long-term international experience and perspectives on the use and application of restorative justice and the potential for upscaling this work in Bangladesh. Currently, in its infancy only in its sub-project sites, discussions focused on raising awareness of the effectiveness of this important response to crime and how to break down barriers to the restorative justice. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, restorative justice is one of the most talked about development in the field of crime and justice. Its proponents argue that punishment, society's customary response to a crime, neither meets the needs of crime victims nor prevents reoffending. Restorative justice is a distinctive approach to crime and conflict which has quite different focus from conventional court-based models of providing guilt. Around the world, restorative justice is increasingly being used within criminal justice systems, schools, workplaces, and other settings where conflict occurs. The principles of restorative justice are being used to construct and handle problems of slavery and other historical injustice, mass violence, genocide, and war crimes. The main purpose of the university was to create new areas of knowledge and disseminate this knowledge to the society through its students. As a center of excellence, the Institute of Social Welfare and Research, University of Dhaka, has been providing a special Masters on Victimology and Restorative Justice since 2012, with the aim to seeking to develop or extend the understanding of the practices of restorative justice, their rationale and effects. The master's degree, the first in the South Asia and Asia Pacific in Victimology and Restorative Justice, provides a unique opportunity to study this fascinating and important phenomenon in depth. It has been passed 2 batches, and about 120 students have already got the master's degree. At present, the 3rd batch is going to be completed their 1st semester. I hope the Victimology and Restorative Justice program in Dhaka University will be department in short times. On behalf of the Institute of the Social Welfare and Research, University of Dhaka, I would like to congratulate all the guests of the inaugural session, including chief guest, Dr. Shirin Sharmin Chaudhuri, MP, Honorable Speaker of the Bangladesh Parliament. Special guest, Mr. Asaduzzaman Khan, MP, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of People's Republic of Bangladesh. Chair of the opening session, Dr. Muzammil Haq Khan, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Home Affairs, and he is also the alumnus, Institute of Social Welfare and Research, Dhaka University, and others, special guests who are present in the inaugural session. I wish to extend my gratitude to Honorable Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University for allowing us to be part of the conference and management of GIZ for considering us as honored organizer. These 2 days conference is so remarkable for the presence of Mr. Jeremy Simons, M. Asadullah, Johnson Lyons, Ms. Vidya Negra, and Dr. Javed Patwari. Dr. Patwari also our alumnus, Institute of Social Welfare and Dhaka University, and also the adjunct faculty, Victimology and Restorative Justice. I thank all for their excellent presentation and innovative ideas on restorative justice. I wish to especially thank from my core of heart from John Braithwaite for coming among us, shared valuable understanding about restorative justice. And we follow the literature of John Braithwaite throughout the master's course and all of the courses. Thank you, Mr. Braithwaite. Let me also take the opportunity to thank all the concerts of GIZ officials who organized the conference to their hard work, especially Richard Miles, Tahira Yasmin, Rejaul Haq, Mahbub Nazmi, Nibraz Sekapi, and so on. Last but not least, let me take the opportunity to sincerely thank again the Ministry of Law, Justice, and Parliament Affairs for finding time for his busy schedule to attend this important closing ceremony. As with other family ties, this means both duties and pleasure. We will be following you from distance and supporting you in your work as Pioneer Institute of Restorative Justice Studies possible. I wish all you a very good and safe journey home and look forward to see you soon again. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Professor Nurul Islam. And now I welcome a guest of honor, Mr. Richard Butterworth, Senior Governance Advisor, DFID Bangladesh, to deliver his remarks.
Okay, that's better. Honourable Minister, Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, Additional Inspector General Bangladesh Police, Professor Dr. Nurul Islam, Professor Braithwaite, Chair, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It is an honour to be asked to speak alongside such an eminent panel. I'm not a lawyer myself. Most of what I know about restorative justice, I have to confess, I've learned in the last 48 hours as a result of this conference, not least from the excellent summary that Professor Braithwaite has just given us. So let me first, on behalf of DFID and the British High Commission, thank the government of Bangladesh and GIZ and all the people who have made this conference happen. Because I'm not an expert, I'll keep my comments brief. You don't need me to tell you some of the challenges that the formal justice system in Bangladesh faces. We've heard a lot about the pressure that the system is under, the 3 million case backlog. I myself have heard too many individual stories of how their encounters with the justice system have resulted in outcomes that look little like justice. Aside from the frustration that I know these pressures cause for the many dedicated professionals working in the system, there is in this pressure a greater danger that the people of Bangladesh, who in my experience are generally law-abiding and peaceful, might lose faith in that justice system. And this is something that the UK government, as a friend of Bangladesh, is keen to avoid. We see security and access to justice as a vital foundation for economic prosperity and for ending poverty, which is DFID's mandate here in Bangladesh. But we're also acutely aware of what has happened in other countries when people lost faith in the justice system and looked for other ways to right perceived wrongs. And as friends of Bangladesh, we do not want to see Bangladesh go down that path. The fact that this conference is taking place and the quality of discussion that I know has taken place in it encourages me that there are many in Bangladesh that are ready and willing to face the challenges that face the justice system. From the discussions that I've heard over the last 48 hours, it feels to me like restorative justice is an idea and an approach whose time may have come in Bangladesh, both as a way of reducing the inflow of cases into the criminal justice system, something I know that the Honourable Minister is keen to see, but also as a way for restoring the faith of victims of crime and the people of Bangladesh in the justice system itself, particularly the 80% of people, of victims of crime that we've heard about who do not report crime and do not go through the formal system. We've heard examples of how restorative justice has been used to good effect in other countries, including my own country, the UK. The success of this conference, I think, will be defined by the action that people who've taken part in these discussions and others inside the formal system and outside take in the weeks and months ahead to make some of these changes happen in Bangladesh. What will we all do differently from next Sunday onwards? Well, we've heard examples from community mediators of how they think they could use restorative justice principles in their work. We've heard from the Bangladesh police how they see opportunities to use restorative justice as a way to resolve cases in a different way. We're about to hear the Honourable Minister's thoughts on what he sees as the next steps. And tomorrow, I understand the judiciary will have its own discussion of what they can do. Increasing the use of restorative justice may well require legislation. The Honourable Minister can say more about that. It may also require changes in rules and regulations. But I think there's something else that's needed beyond legislation, beyond changes in rules and regulations, and that is practical examples of initiatives that have enabled people, particularly victims of crime, to access justice. Examples of the application of restorative justice as an alternative to court or as an aid to managing cases as they come to court. And there's a need, as well as for more of those initiatives, to gather evidence on what has worked and why. I know that the IRSOP project that GIZ is implementing with the Ministry of Home Affairs and that we are funding is supporting some examples. I know of many other similar examples in the Community Legal Services project that DFID is funding and the various UNDP projects that we support in the justice sector. There is a lot of good work that has been done over the last few years that has got us to the place we are now. Our commitment as DFID to what we will do from next Sunday onwards is that we are actively looking for more local initiatives that, in their own small ways, get the justice system working more effectively for victims of crime and for the people of Bangladesh, and to enable poor people in particular to access justice. And as new initiatives emerge, whether from government, whether from civil society, whether from the police or from the other agencies within the justice system, we're willing to get behind good initiatives and support them and continue to build the momentum that we have seen in the discussions in this conference. So this is a discussion that I look forward to continuing over the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Butterworth. And now I have the pleasure of welcoming our special guest, Mr. Mohammad Mukhlisur Rahman, BNP Additional Inspector General, Admin and Operation of Bangladesh Police, to come and deliver his speech.
Good evening, and my greetings to Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Anisul Haq, MP, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs. Distinguished guests of honor, Mr. Richard Butterworth, Senior Governance Advisor, DFID, Bangladesh, Mr. John Braithwaite, the father of the restorative justice, Professor Mr. Muhammad Nurul Islam, Program Coordinator, Victimology and Restorative Justice Program, Dhaka University, and Honorable Chair, Mrs. Promita Sengupta, Head of Program, Rule of Law, GIZ, and honored participants. It's a great opportunity for me to be here to deliver a few words in front of such a dignified audience. We police always try to prevent crime and identify offenders in order to maintaining peace and harmony in the society. In preventing crime and upholding the safety of the community, police should adopt many new different approaches with the changed situation. As a member of a delegation, I have visited the United Kingdom to observe an alternative way of delivering justice under the umbrella of policing. Restorative justice has already taken a new dimension in the UK through resolving conflicts by giving comfort to the victims. In Bangladesh, more often, without having any name, restorative justice is being extensively practiced by police throughout the country for speedy resolution of conflicts. Affected parties or victims eagerly urge for fair justice directly from police with the intention to avoid the time-consuming as well as costly court procedures. Keeping aside the existing laws, police have to respond to the urge of aggrieved parties instantly. Victims, though not always, get relief by the intervention of police. It is easy, no cost is involved, speedy, and win-win. Restorative justice, in addition, raises the trust level of population on police. Using restorative justice, we believe that the safety of the victims is heightened, as well as the other benefits that restorative justice brings. We are not only looking out for public safety, but also the security of each citizen in Bangladesh. Restorative justice can provide better security for both individuals and communities after harm has occurred. And this is something that truly needs investment and engagement. Restorative justice, well implemented, can deliver both safety and security at a minimal cost. Bangladesh has learned many approaches of modern policing from other countries, while many are solutions centered around technology and financial investment. From the UK, we have learned that lasting solutions do not need to a lot of money. Restorative justice is one such solution that both improves police performance and reduces the cost. A win-win situation for the public and for the police. The police are very important in the criminal justice system as they are often the first point of contact with an offender, victim, or crime. We are striving to communicate with other relevant departments of the government of Bangladesh for a more united front on the reform of our criminal justice system. At the moment, restorative justice is a separate alternative to the formal justice system, but as we have heard from our distinguished international guests, the police, prisons, and even the courts are involved in the restorative justice mechanism in many other countries around the world. This is something that may be a good opportunity for Bangladesh. We need to give prisons as an opportunity to be what they are designed to be. If dialogue happens, prisons can become correctional institutions. People can resolve minor disputes without placing further burdens on the criminal justice system. And we can ensure public safety by reducing and preventing crime, ensuring success to justice, and reforming our prison system. Restorative justice can really help us by taking the burden of the criminal justice system and the prisons. We are more likely to be able to benefit from the correctional measures that are being set up. We are lucky in that we do have rehabilitation measures going on in our prisons currently, but with such a large and overpopulated prison population, these measures will not impact enough people to make a difference to their rehabilitation in order to contribute more sustainability to public safety, more substantially to public safety. I would like to thank IRSOP for continuing to collaborate with the police in every district and at the national level. From the side of the Bangladesh police, I commit to full support for the project's activities and hope to stay abreast of results achieved. In our government 2021 vision, we, the police, are committed to regain the confidence of the people of Bangladesh. According to the vision, the concept of community police will be reinforced. We will strive to work together with the Ministry of Home Affairs and also the Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs in order to fulfill this promise. Thank you very much for an interesting, constructive, and promising conference and your valuable recommendations. I would like to welcome the chief guest of this conclusion session, Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Anisul Haq MP, Honorable Minister, Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs. Again, that the police should be an integral part in the restorative justice system in Bangladesh, as we have seen in UK. Thank you. Thank you all.
Mr. Rahman, thank you very much for your speech. And now, I have the pleasure of inviting our Honorable Minister, Mr. Anisul Haq, MP of Ministry of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, for his speech.
I hope, Professor John Braithwaite, that restorative justice will start from the Bangladesh-Australia test matches that are going to be held soon. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Chair, Honorable Judge Sean Lyons, distinguished Professor John Braithwaite, Honorable Special Guest, Guest of Honor, Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Nurul Islam of Dhaka University, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon at the closing session of the two-day conference on restorative justice, from crime prevention to conflict transformation, the impact of which, I believe, has far-reaching influence on our quest for delivering speedy justice to our people. Distinguished participants, the conference is being held at a time when the shoulders of the judiciary are burdened with a huge backlog of cases, both civil and criminal. The government, being the representative of the people and realizing that justice delayed is justice denied, is very serious about reducing the pressure of such backlog of the judiciary. It is our aim to enhance people's confidence in the justice system and to deepen the respect for the judiciary. Naturally, this means that we have to look for alternatives, not because the present system has failed, but because the time has changed. The trend of the world today is to serve the people with alternatives in a platter, so that they do not take all dispute to courts. It is now an established practice in the developed countries to discourage litigants to go to court through the lengthy process of litigation. Rather, efforts are on to encourage resolution through innovative ideas like restorative justice, sentencing policy, arbitration, and mediation. As I understand, restorative justice is a highly effective means of diverting people away from the criminal justice system and incarceration. Through dialogue under the guidance of a trained mediator, it works to repair the harm caused by crimes and aids the reintegration of the offender back into the community. In some cases, it helps to revert the victim back to the original situation before the crime happened, reducing the heart and emotional impact caused by such action. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference aims at finding out the barriers to restorative justice and looking at how the barriers can be broken down. Therefore, this initiative was very important for raising the awareness of restorative justice in Bangladesh as a legitimate response to crimes, especially minor and petty ones. Keeping in line with the objective of the conference, brought together national and international academics and practitioners to discuss the use and application of restorative justice both in Bangladesh and around the world. The conference has also deliberated on other methods of resolving criminal cases. All these concepts are geared to give justice a safe landing in the hearts of the litigants. These practiced and tested concepts have borne fruit for the judicial system of the developed countries, bringing relief for thousands of people. This system, enriched with experience and armed with example, is a welcome panacea for the troubles that we are beleaguered with. The conference, I hope, will initiate the momentum for us to develop strategic policy enabling the acceptance of restorative justice in our system and extend its scope as an effective alternative to the prevalent criminal justice procedure. I can assure you that whenever it is necessary, our government will endeavor to do the needful to embrace the system as our conditions permit. If required, proper laws will be enacted to legalize and formalize the concepts. With these few words, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the organizers for inviting me to this august gathering. I also thank the audience for their patient hearing. I thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And with that, we conclude this conference on restorative justice from crime prevention to conflict transformation. Thank you all very much.
Excuse me.